Micah, would you pray, and then we will get started, and then we're going to have a good time. And one of the moms downstairs told me to watch the clock, but I'm not even sure why. So, anyway.
I've had it.
That was Aubrey's mom, so yeah, help him out. Mike, would you go ahead and pray?
It came and then I made it go back across.
Lord, thank you for this day, for this opportunity to gather here and to listen to your word. Thank you for Craig and for everyone that's graciously volunteered to help us out. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
All right.
On there.
So I gave y'all copies of the questions, so
Yeah, but why is
you
it
can
not-
think about your answers. So what we're going to do is we're just kind of let them talk and share.
I don't know if it was me. It's fine. It's fine.
It's okay.
Everything's fine.
We'll let them share, and then if I don't, not everybody's going to answer every question, but because we do actually have 11 questions. So y'all just randomly answer however you feel. Interrupt if you feel the necessary, and we're just going to go with the flow. So everybody good? Nobody's frightened at all? It's good. All right, here we go. If you'll tell us about yourself and your family, and include how long you've been married. Yeah, you're on.
We're Scott and Jenny Patrick.
Which one's Scott?
This guy. We moved to LLano last year, but however, we are high school sweethearts. We've been dating since I was 15, turning 16, and he was a senior. And so we've been together for 20 years, and we've been married for 14. We have 3 girls. They're my favorite, so that's us.
We are Ashley and Greg Monig. We have been in LLano, this is our 7th year, right? We were in Port Lavaca before that. We met in college and have been married for almost 11 years. And we have 2 little girls, Lindsay and Catherine. And that's us.
I'm Matt and Marian Anastasio. We have 2 boys. They're the one's at Baylor, and the other one's already graduated. We've been in Houston, Odessa, Austin, Corpus, Odessa, Llano. We've been here 3 years. We've been married. This May will be 27 years. We've been seeing each other for 30 almost now. So. So I guess we're old. Okay. So that's us.
Y'all listen.
Yeah, it's important. We're Terry and Kitty Smart. We have 2 children, a daughter that's married, so we have a son-in-law, and a son that's single. But they're all adults and gone. We met in college. We met at a banquet before I was enrolled at that college, and then because we sat across the table from each other. Next year we were in class together, and it only took me about 6 months to remember her name, and that's when I moved to stick.
That's
32 and a half years.
I'm sorry, what?
32 and a
Oh, I
half
thought
years.
you said ordinance. Bless your heart. So FYI, this is the reason we're doing this, is because your dating relationships can either make or break you in your high school and junior high careers, because you can either make them a success or you can continue down a road of failure. And I'll tell you, the ironic thing is, like, there was a family in our church in Crandall. He passed away, the husband passed away 2 years ago, and she's celebrating on Facebook the other day her 72nd anniversary with him. And the thing that I thought about is, like, y'all don't know how long life is. You just know how long you've lived. But those 2 loved each other more and more every day. And I hope that's what you find. but not just that romantic love, but the love that Christ can only help you know and understand. And I think these guys are involved in growing together more every day, and that's a huge part of why I asked them to be here. So understand, when we talk about marriage and dating, you guys may not think about marriage and dating until years from now, but honestly, I was thinking about dating the one that I was going to marry when I was a senior in high school, because I saw her and I had a crush on her when I was in the 6th grade, but when I found her in my senior year, I was like, yeah, we could be married. I didn't think about dating. I was skipping that part. I was just like, but then God told me she wasn't the one, but then I found the one, not Dwayne, my wife. So, all right, so the next question is, how did you meet? Well,
Yeah, they were all high school and college sweethearts.
yeah. Like, that's how you, like, if there's a cool story.
There's not.
Well, we just, as we were talking and getting ready for this, we realized yesterday that we actually met 13 years ago, almost to the date, at a Super Bowl party. So
Who was playing?
they were playing washers and the TV was on.
Who's playing 13 years
Arizona
ago?
and Steelers, yeah.
There you go.
They're
Brought us together.
Yeah.
I have no idea what happened.
Yeah. Well, because you were totally focused on her.
Because I was there.
Anybody else? How'd you meet?
The hallway.
Hallway.
We both had restroom passes.
We met when I was a sophomore in college and she was a freshman in college. And her and a bunch of friends were at the beach one day, and I gave her a ride home, and she left her lipstick in my truck. And I said, I may need to call her, and I told her, I said, the only way you get this back is if you go to the movies with me. And so that's what started it.
Doesn't that get you to feel?
Sounds like a plan.
How did you know your spouse was the one? Besides just remembering her name, but like
Let me go again? I'll keep going. I played college football, and I met her when I was a sophomore, so I kept playing, and it was a long-distance relationship, 400 miles apart. So she didn't find anybody else, I didn't find anybody, and I said, hey, if that lady can stay with me for 400 miles apart for 3 years, I know she can stay with me, this close together every day. So that was the one.
That's why I invited y'all. That's awesome.
It's not coming up, right?
I don't guess there was a specific moment or a day or an event that I said that's the one, but we were together for a while before I proposed to her and we got engaged. And I think we just went through a lot together, and so you just kind of grow close to that person, and I couldn't imagine, I didn't want anybody else. I couldn't imagine being with somebody else.
I remember, I have a moment, some of us might not. I was working at summer camp, and I would come back on the weekends and get to see him and everything, and I remember coming back one weekend. We hadn't been dating just too terribly long at this point, but I came back and I just had really bad stomach ache, like I just didn't feel good, and which ended up being a whole other story, but I just remember him looking at me and going like, I just wish I could take that pain away from you. Like, I wish I could just take it away and you just not feel that pain. Like, I'll take it for you. He's like, I just wish I could do that. And I just remember I called my best friend headed back to camp, and I remember telling her, like, I am way more in love with this guy that I've only been dating for however long at that point, maybe a couple months, and than I have ever thought I knew anything about love. And it was just kind of that moment of like him wanting to just take that pain away from me. And even in apply it to himself, like he was like, I wish I could just take that for you. And it was kind of in that moment where I was like, yeah, I think you'll do. All right.
That's cool.
Hey, Kenny says the reason he was the one is because he couldn't leave, but that's not true. We were actually on a judging team together, and I know this sounds really country, but we were. And I don't know, respected his intelligence and he was just a good guy. His character was amazing, and he was a lot of fun. So I don't know, we bonded and had a lot of things in common.
Super. All right, so these will get a little bit more either personal, individual, or something you share collectively. How important has your faith been in your relationship, both before marriage and during?
Got this, Coach A.
Coach A?
I'll go. I guess to be completely honest, my faith before our marriage probably wasn't that well grounded. My wife gets to take some of the credit for my active faith. It was something that we started going to get to church together before we were married. And we grew together in that, and we continue to grow. After we were married, we grew in our faith, we grew in our obedience to God. It wasn't overnight, it took some time. But we were blessed through that with every church that we've been in and involved in, that local body, as well as God has strengthened us and been something to rely on through all the times.
Everybody's not gonna, early on, y'all know I coach, okay? Coaching can be a very stressful profession sometimes. Really, just every now and then. Early on, we didn't look towards them, okay? I would bring home stress. She would bring home stress. And it was stressful. I use that word a lot. It was go away, not seeing each other. And then about 10 years ago, we knew that our lives were miserable. And finding him, I had a couple of surgeries where that doctor said, you don't know how close you were to dying. And right then I said, okay, man up top, I heard you calling. Okay. And since then, we have relaxed. We pray together. We always go and we say, let's go out now. And the guy upstairs has a plan for all of us. How I ended up in LLano, Texas, I couldn't tell you, except that guy upstairs knows. And there's a reason we're here. And it's relaxed us and grown us even closer together. And so, faith-wise, we didn't have it at the beginning of our marriage as strong as we do now. And it's brought us even closer together. So you never know, young ones, why the guy upstairs is doing that. And he may be testing you, and seeing how strong you can be. But there's a plan, okay? And you don't know what that plan is, but buy into it, because his plan is going to lead you in the right direction. And then it's led us in the right direction of being in LLano. So it's gotten us closer together on that end.
Good.
This is the more relaxed Coach A.
Anybody down there?
Can I kind of jump to the next one?
I mean,
Well,
totally.
they kind of go together. The next one is kind of about like the church in general.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Okay, so I guess when we met, I grew up in church, and I grew up in a youth group, and I grew up, with all the activities and everything, and I did the path, the grow up in church way. I was saved at age 7, I recommitted at age 15, and then I went to college, and things maybe changed a little bit there, and it was kind of hard to find a church home and everything, but I still had that foundation and everything of growing up in the church and all of that, and then Greg and I met, and kind of the same, grew up in a church, had the foundation and everything, but we weren't really sure how to build that together. And even after we got married, we lived in a town that just didn't have a super strong church, and it's hard to go to church when you don't feel at home in a church. And, yeah, not as, yeah, and, right, we kind of felt like we were on the outskirts and everything. So we kind of fast forward, moved to LLano, and we're back on the church hunt again, you know, and there's a place where we feel like we should be, or at that point in our lives felt like we should be, and it just wasn't working for us, so we kind of stopped going to church just because we couldn't find that place that fit for us. And then we found a home, we found a church. And in that church that we found, like, we didn't realize how far we had kind of drifted. Not that we were bad people or doing bad things or didn't believe in God, or we had just drifted. And being back in that church, we were around people that we wanted to be around, and that believed in God, and that was their whole life, that was their walk. They were walking it, they were talking it, they were encouraging others, they were on the Great Commission, you know, they were doing all the things. And we were both baptized there, with our kids watching, you know. And so I don't know how old it was, but and so it, you know, to me, I'm like, oh, here I go, recommitting again. But it was different that time, and you kind of made that decision for the first time. So yes, he had that foundation, and we felt like we were on the same page there, but that commitment had not ever been made until we found that church, you know. And it was the people that we were surrounded with that were encouraging us, and that we were getting to learn from and watch, and it was just, I mean, it was amazing. And so number 5 says, how important is church and being around other like-minded believers been to your marriage relationship? Well, I can remember at some point in my life someone doing a triangle, and it was like you and your spouse and God. And the more you get to God and your spouse gets to God, the closer you're going to get. And that's exactly what happened to us. I mean, our marriage was a lot stronger after that, and just in how we want to raise our kids and what, you know, all of that. And so just finding that place in that church and being around those kind of people, I mean, literally saved our lives. So that's why I wanted to jump to the next one.
Agreed. The question was, how has your faith been, how important has it been in your relationship? And then the next question that she went to was, how important was church and being around other like-minded believers? And being on the campus at the high school has been really a unique feel to me, is because I know that there's so many believers that are on the high school campus. In Crandall, before we moved here, there were a handful that were just above the top, like as far as believers, but it just wasn't consistent across the board the way I feel like it is at the high school here. And I know there's a lot of believers at the junior high, but I don't see it as much at the junior high as I do at the high school. And I think that's a testimony to our administration, who does a lot of hiring and things like that, and the culture that's set. And so I think being around like-minded believers, it sets the tone for your job as well. Mr. Patrick?
Yeah, I was just going to touch on the family side of it, not just our relationship or anything like that, but, you know, it takes a village to raise a child, so surrounding them with people that are like-minded and are going to invest in our kids is important to us. You know, we try to do the same thing for others, but I guess that's, I don't know, I tell kids, I may have told some of you guys this, but you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with, so if you put yourself around 5 knuckleheads, you'll be the 6th, that type of deal. And so it's important to surround yourself with other people.
Can you write that down for me later?
Yeah.
It was.
And so yeah, it's important.
Okay. Tell me about y'all's Sunday school class, Kenny and Terry.
Wonderful.
The one we teach now, I guess?
Sure, yeah.
Because we were in youth when we were significantly younger. But we've had a class, I don't know, 5 years or so, and it's called Odds and Ends because we're just kind of odd. So, but we truly study the Bible, and I feel like it's a family in there. We share a lot, personal things, and like Beth and Joe are in there. And, you know, sometimes we study books of the Bible, like right now we're studying Hebrews. Sometimes we pick a topic. We studied, I got the book out last night, Max Lucado's Anxious for Nothing. We've done all kinds of things, but it's just a lot of discussion, and it's been good, I think, for us, because we bounce things off of each other. And I actually grew up in the Lutheran church, so becoming a Baptist was a huge thing for me. My family pretty much thought I was going to hell. No lie. Being baptized as an adult was not okay. So that was really, really hard, but that was something that Kenny and I decided to do as a family. And I think we've grown from that. Grace is an amazing thing, guys. And I hope you get it a lot earlier than I did. I was probably 30 before I truly understood grace. So you guys are in a good place, and grace is good. Come to Sunday school. No matter what age, come to Sunday school. You learn a lot, and you make friendships, deep friendships.
That's good. All right, so I sent these questions to you, and this one is the one that I gave some examples at the end, so kind of keep that in mind. Number 6 is, as coaches, teachers, admin with jobs, family, and goats, crazy schedules, what would you say has been something that has helped sustain you besides your walk with Jesus? What has sustained you or your marriage besides just walking with Jesus?
I don't know, you listed out some characteristics like communication, forgiveness, understanding. If I was going to try to come up with something like that, it would be being selfless. If you look at marriage as a 50-50 thing where we're keeping score, and I did this for her, so I'm expecting this in return, pretty quick it won't work. And so I think there's times that you meet your spouse, your partner, wherever they're at. So if they're struggling, if there's something that's going on with them, then you may carry 80% of the load for that little bit. Or the vice versa, there's going to be a time where you're going through something or you're struggling, and your spouse will step up for you. And so that would be the one thing that I would say, and that was a piece of advice that was given to me as we were going through our, like initial marriage counseling. But after 14 years, I found it to be very true. It's not about being equal or fair or whatever. It's about doing whatever that other person needs from you and being willing to do that. That's good.
Yes, we totally agree with that. I mean, I can remember being very emotional one day because it was a lot, and I had a newborn, and it's just, y'all probably see him some days more than I do, and most days, all the time. But I've got kids, I've got to cook dinner and get them places and everything, and I remember looking at the dishes going, no, I cannot. And so he's the dish man, and he comes home from a long day and he does our dishes, or he tells me and says, listen, don't touch them. I got them. And that's what you have to do. And you've got to make, and it's that communication piece too. I had to talk to him and say, I am overwhelmed. I've hit the point where I can't even look at another dirty dish ever, or we're gonna eat chicken meat for the rest of our lives. And he stepped up and was like, here we go, that's what I needed from you. Because if I don't tell him that, how's he gonna know? And so anyways, it's a lot of communication on that part.
There will be subtle hints though, guys.
And don't ignore them.
Yeah.
Don't ignore them, that's right.
What do you mean by subtle?
Loud.
Lots of
I'll add to that too, on the communication, all of it. I think priorities, we've kind of went through the spectrum past the far end. I mean, we were young, we were busy, we were in school, both working full-time, both in graduate school. Terry was, we were pregnant, she was working, she was going to school, she was finishing up the teaching deal. I was going to school, I was working. And then we got busy later on in life. Meaning, you can really get wrapped up in what's going on in the world. And we did, I specifically got very wrapped up in what I did for years. But what you prioritize, what you commit to as being important, is what you're gonna spend time at. If you don't really know what you care about, look, see what, maybe you just care about your phone and social media because that's where you spend your whole time. Maybe you care about school because that's where you spend with sports and studies and everything. But if you don't know what your priorities are, if you'll sit down and figure out what you did that day, you'll find your priorities. And once you get committed with a boyfriend, girlfriend, or spouse, if it's not a priority, you'll know. And they'll probably know before you know. So that's, to me, it's, you have to prioritize things. And you will make mistakes. You will. You'll find out I didn't have my priorities right.
Mr. Craig put on there goats, and I think that's talking to me and Mary Ann. So real quick, little funny story. We've never had animals except dogs before we moved to LLano, and now we have, what is it right now? Well, we had another baby 23 goats, 2 donkeys, 9 chickens, a duck somehow, and a dog. And so we're way in over that. But, you know, funny story before we do that. Okay, you better marry your best friend. Okay, this is my best friend in the whole wide world. Okay, we have fun. Okay, that's how we've learned to kind of get back to it. So, guys, every night I come home, the best part is my wife is outside and she'll yell at the goats, "Hey, who's the best coach?" And they all go, "Man." And the donkeys start up, and I see they're laughing at you on that end. But we like to have fun, and I think that's how we've gotten closer. You know, she'll come through there and she'll go, "Folding party," and so that means, you know, it's time to fold clothes, and we'll go back there and do it together. And we've come to we want to have fun, and life is too short to not have fun with your best friend and enjoy life. And even if things are going bad, somehow, you know, this guy said something today, and you know, or you know, this happened today, and both of us will turn it to make us both laugh at it, because guys, there's nothing too serious in life. And I know there's things that get serious, but when you marry your best friend, there's sometimes that you need to get serious with it, and that's health issues and other things, but you better have fun with them, okay? And that doesn't mean anything but enjoying life with them, and you know, telling them goats, that's right, that's who the best one, the best looking guy is, and that's what she always says. And they always say Matt. I don't know why. Logan, why they always say that, but they always yell it every night I come home. So that's why I saw the goat thing on there, so I was going to tell the story about every night she's outside and then they yell for food, and she'll say every night, "Who's the best coach? Who's the good looking guy?" And they all yell at Matt the whole time. So I want to throw that in there because I saw the goat and I said, I might as well get that story out. But marry your best friend. She's my best friend.
Good. All right, so we're going to switch from kind of marriage, but to where they're at. I feel like dating is kind of practice or trying to figure it out for marriage, and so we're going to switch gears a little bit. As a parent of daughters, some of you are, what boundaries do you think are appropriate for affection? Like, obviously, you've got littles, but like when they're in teenage and high school, what boundaries should they have for affection in their dating relationship?
So I'm a school counselor, a lot of y'all know me, and so I talk about this a lot in my office with a lot of kids. And when I was at my previous school, we did a parent and a kids seminar called Sex Matters. And it was the night before, we had a parent seminar for all the parents to come, and then the next day, they came and did a program for the whole high school. No teachers were allowed inside. I was the only person inside because we talked about some stuff, right? It was a tough conversation. But one thing they said in the parents seminar, I will always remember and use when I'm speaking to kids in my office, and I will use with my own children. Every day, I would say I pour so much of myself into them so that they can see Jesus through me, and then I can set an example for them. No matter how much I pour into them, at some point they're human and they're going to make choices and they may make mistakes, right? Because we all have. And so our job and our responsibility that God has given us as a parent is to not create opportunities for them to make those mistakes, right? Not shutting the door, not leaving the home whenever they're with their boyfriend or girlfriend. So not providing and just handing them opportunities for them to make the mistake, making it as hard as I possibly can for them to make a bad choice. And so I learned that from that seminar, and I've just always had it in my brain. I'm just not going to provide that opportunity for them. So
We are now writing that down, because that will not be a rule for our children.
I think it's, part of the responsibility that God gave us as parents. He gave us those 3 girls, and they're a gift from Him, and He has entrusted us to protect them. And so whenever they can't protect themselves because they are human, the human brain for kids, just so you know, the school counselor's coming out in me, you do not fully develop your human brain, the choice-making side of your brain until you're 24, okay? We don't start making wonderful, great choices.
Rational, logical.
Grown up, yes, that's what I was trying to say, thank you. Rational choices until we're 24. So when we shut the door and when we let a boyfriend or a girlfriend over when we're 15 and 16, it opens up opportunities for mistakes to happen. And so God entrusts us with these children, and so it's my job to protect them until they can make those decisions for themselves.
Very good.
Coach Monty, would you like to address that situation?
When I saw that question on there, I was like, man, I haven't really, because my oldest is 10, so I haven't given that a ton of thought of what is it going to be like whenever she starts dating or whenever that first boy comes around. So I don't really know the answer to that question, but it was a good one to start
thinking about.
Yeah. So I had a random conversation in class yesterday. There was a couple in our class. After their work was finished, they faced each other and were talking to each other, and they held fingers across the aisle. And I told them, I said, that is so sweet, y'all are. And then they got embarrassed. And I was like, well, that's a whole lot better than like other stuff I've seen. And like I had to break up a couple one morning, and I was like, hey, disengage or something, But like, what bothers me sometimes is when you go to camp and they have like the camp rules and it says no PDA. What does that mean?
No public displays of affection.
No public or no private displays of affection, right? So that really kind of did me just to think a lot. It's like, what is appropriate in public? It's like, don't make it a big deal. When my wife and I sit in church, we hold hands during prayer. We're not in each other's laps. We're not laying on each other. I mean, when we're in public, people know that we're married because of our rings, not because of the amount of affection we get. Does that make sense? You've been around in counseling in school for a long time. What would you say is appropriate for teenage girls and guys?
I think one of the biggest things is decide before you ever start dating, what are my boundaries? What are my boundaries? Because I can tell you, I've had several, sadly many students when I was still counseling who would come in and they had made a mistake. And it was a consequence, either a pregnancy or an STI or just absolute guilt, the fear of pregnancy, or broken heart, yes. All of those things, guys. And your question number 11, I'm going to skip to that one real quick. What is one piece of advice you could give that you wish you would have heard at this age? Your guilt and your regrets over poor choices and poor decisions are much harder than just saying no for a moment of pleasure. I promise you will not regret saying no. like you will if you cross that boundary. I promise you that. So, that would be the one thing that I say. Decide before you ever start dating, where am I willing to go? When am I gonna say stop? And girls, no means no. Gentlemen, no means no. And, just don't go there. If nothing else, think about your grandma sitting right there beside you. Would you be doing that? Okay. But that's my one thing, I think, is just think about the future.
I'm gonna touch on that just as a personal experience without going into too much detail. I was dating in high school and I told a boy no, and he did not like that. And broke up with me, and it was like, okay, bye, like, okay, that's completely fine with me. It didn't bother me a bit. And a year later, someone else didn't say no and got pregnant. And he wanted her to make some choices that she was not comfortable with. And my mom called me and said, aren't you so glad you said no? And I said, yes, 1,000,000 times over. It was worth it. And now that the other girl that did not say no, which is, her choice, has a beautiful, very healthy, like 9-10-year-old little girl. And if he had had his way, she would not be here. And that very well could have been me, but I said no because that was not something I was interested in not doing at that point. And he broke up with me over it, and my win, because I did not want to go down that road with him. So that no that she's talking about is important, and it can alter your life, so.
Anybody else want to touch on that? What emotional boundaries do you think are appropriate for teens? I mean, all of y'all are at the high school or been around high schoolers, or you were a high schooler. What emotional boundaries?
So I teach elementary, and so we're gonna see how much this applies to teenagers, but there are a lot of emotions in elementary. You may think that gets saved for when you're older, but it absolutely does not. And so one of the things that I teach my kids is like, feel your feelings, guys. Like, nowhere does it say you are not allowed to feel your feelings. And I've had students who have expressed their anger in ways that maybe aren't super appropriate, and so when they're done with that, we talk to them, and I'm like, listen, like, feel your anger, be angry. You are allowed to be angry, and you are allowed to have those emotions. You just have to appropriately, you have to have an appropriate action to go with that anger. You cannot punch your best friend in the face. You can't, or whatever it may be, throw things at your teacher. And so there are appropriate ways to handle those emotions, and I feel like maybe I touched on a nerve, I don't know. But I'm like, oh, okay, sorry. No, and I was talking to my mom about this tonight before we came, because yes, I was preparing, because I was, preparing, that's what I do. And she brought up that there is a Bible verse, maybe in Ephesians, where it says like, be angry, but do not sin. And so it doesn't say don't be angry. Feel your feelings, have those emotions, but have a plan as to what you're going to do with those emotions. And when you're feeling sad or when you're feeling angry, just have a plan maybe. And that's kind of, those are just kind of my thoughts from elementary teacher standpoint of feel your feelings, but let's make sure our actions are appropriate.
This one was hard for me. This is hard. I'm going to be honest.
I also Googled emotional boundaries. This was also hard for me. And then I stepped into my teacher's shoes. But I can agree, this one was a hard one. Get after it, Mr. Patrick.
I don't really know that this fits, but like I see kids in the hallways, I see kids up at school. From my perspective, it's not a healthy relationship. That there's some stuff going on it's not particularly good or healthy, but they haven't figured it out yet. And so, we can counsel them, we can talk to them, but it's not my place to say yes, you can, or no, you can't. But what I would say is like you're dating, we're the exception to the rule probably. The first time you go on a date, you're probably not going to marry that person, spend the rest of your life with them. That's okay. That's what dating is. You're supposed to be trying it out, seeing what you like in a partner, seeing what you enjoy, what you don't want. And so if you go on a date or if you're in a relationship and it's not working, it's not like as long as you're honest and you're upfront and you're not trying to hide something and you're not, whatever, then that would be, it's okay to date and then not, or move on, or whatever. That's what it's supposed to be. So that's the only thing that I could really come up with that was kind of on topic.
No, I think you touch on it is because at some point you go, do I love her or do I really like her and she makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up when I'm around her? There's
and it's all new. There's a flood of emotion. It's like there's a lot going on, but yeah.
Good. Any adults, our adults, have anything to say about emotional boundaries?
Well, we had this conversation in our group a couple weeks ago, and I kind of went there when I said, if they're not nice to you, walk away. I mean, that is not something that you want to build a future on. If they're not nice to you, walk. See ya. I mean, do not be with someone who's not kind to you. Don't do it. Doesn't matter how good looking they are. If they're a jerk, walk off. And that goes for girls too.
One of the things that I thought about with emotional boundaries is I was a very broken teenager. I was very abused and very broken was my word. And so my emotional choices, sorry for allergies, my emotional choices were not healthy because I didn't have any boundaries and I didn't have a strong relationship with Jesus. And I started going to church at 14, but everything I would do at church got undone the minute I walked in the door and I had to start fighting or screaming or, making my way to my room to close the door and hide, But I think the biggest thing we have to understand is I wish I could go back and say, okay, wait a minute, I'm making choices out of my brokenness. And so I think if there's a hole in your life, a parent hole, if your mom's not there,
Boy?
If there's something missing in your life, stop and think, am I making decisions based on my emptiness or am I making decisions based on what's good for me? But when you're lost and don't have guidance, you do stuff. I wasn't horrible. I kept going to church, and because I knew where the answers were. I just knew I couldn't figure out how to take them with me.
I want to go off of what Renee said about, not being nice. You can't fix someone else. Don't try to fix the person you're interested in or that you want to have a relationship. That's not your job. Their job is to fix themselves and your job is to fix yourself. To focus on yourself. You cannot go in and fix someone else, and then you get in a relationship like that, there's nothing good going to come out of it.
It's true.
Good.
Cool. All right, cool. Number 9. As young men, what character qualities do you suggest these guys develop with them in their dating relationships?
He's like, give me that.
I want to go because I like the young man part. I still qualify. Knowing I don't want these other guys to steal my point. To me, respect yourself. If you can't respect yourself, you're probably not going to be respecting anybody else. And then if you're interested in someone, you have to respect them. And one of the best ways to do that is honesty. Your integrity is something that you can, takes a lifetime to earn and an instant to lose.
Say that again. Repeat those words, please.
takes a lifetime to earn and an instant to lose.
That's worth writing down.
So, those two, I think, are very important in anything in life. And I like being young again.
The only thing I was gonna say kind of touches on what I was talking about a while ago, like, being honest with whoever it is, because whenever you enter into a relationship, there's a risk there, right? I can be hurt, I can hurt somebody else, and so you don't take that lightly, you don't take it for granted, you're entering into that willingly, voluntarily, because you think there could be an interest there, a mutual interest. And so just don't go into that casually, I guess, and because that kind of goes back to the respect, to the honesty. And again, there's nothing saying that you have to have those feelings forever, but if things change, then just handle that as delicately as you can, and because you respect the other person, you care about their feelings, and just, yeah, that would be the thing that I would say.
So don't break up by Snapchat,
Well, just, yeah.
Exactly.
face to face.
You got it? Great.
Man, don't, when you go in a relationship, don't expect anything, not expect. I'm trying to say it right. before I-
Just don't.
Don't expect something in return all the time. It's, you know, when you find that one, don't expect, well, I gave her something for my birthday, I expect something back. Or if I, you know, give her a kiss, she, this back. Don't expect, I mean, you go into it finding the one that the same way as you are. You know, opposites attract sometimes. Me and her, you know, she likes the Cowboys. I don't know what's wrong with her on that end. But opposites attract on that end. But don't expect something in return, as in just for being in a relationship. And I don't know if I'm explaining myself well enough on that. Mr. Smart did one heck of a job explaining what he did. But don't go into it going, oh, I expect this out of that girlfriend. Okay? Guys, you are more looked upon in society in being in relationships than the women are. I mean, that's just how it is. Because guys, you have a bad rap just because you're a guy. I'm gonna let you know that. You do. The guy's always in the fault. I mean, and sometimes it can be the girls. And so guys, when you go in a relationship, don't expect anything back. Okay? If they're the one and you're like them, you'll feel what they're giving back, you know, friendship, and they'll return. I'm not doing a good job explaining it. I'm kind of like going off, but I don't know if I'm explaining it very good. I'm done. Okay.
You're doing a good job.
So don't expect anything back.
There you go.
They have hit on some good qualities and things. I'm going to hit it a little bit differently in the development of the qualities, like how you develop those things. I would say y'all are obviously here right now and listening to some people talk about some very good things and things, but be aware of the relationships you see. Learn from those things, learn from the relationships you're in. I had somebody that, one of my students in years past or whatever, break up, and the first thing I said was learn from your experience. Learn what you like, what you don't like, how people treat you, those types of things, but see those qualities, and that's one of those things going back to, I think, Mr. Patrick said earlier, is the people you're around also, you'll start mimicking those people, and where you are, if you're going to church, if you're in your job or wherever it is, those people you're around, you're going to kind of, again, mimic those qualities of being around those people, but also being aware of how those relationships work and what works and what doesn't.
I told him he was allowed to say, patience is a quality you need to have. But he chose not to say it.
Something.
Please.
Okay.
Yes.
Girls are super emotional. And as young men, you need to be aware of that and not let your words try to persuade them into anything. So basically, your words need to match your actions. Don't love bomb them. Don't, give them gifts and do all these things and expecting anything. You have to be honest, which is what, a lot of these people said. But I've seen it in here with my sister, all these people saying things and nothing ever matches up. So girls, look out for that. Guys, do a better job of
100% girls. If you're confused about how a guy feels about you, look at what they do, not what they say.
That's right.
Yes.
Words don't matter.
Jarietta, if you're confused about, what did you?
I just said, girls, if you're confused about how a guy feels about you, look at what they do and how they treat you versus what they're telling you from time to time.
Statements like that are why I asked y'all to be here. That's awesome. That's good.
Can
All
we
right.
move on to girls? Is it the girls' character? Is that right? Is that the next question?
Yeah, the
Just
girl,
jumping ahead.
So,
that side of the boat. Yeah, so now we'll hit the girls' side of the topic, yes.
well, and I'm just gonna speak on a topic that I'm gonna be vulnerable with for a minute, and something that I've had to work through myself. I think that, when we are girls, we are very emotional, but we have this picture of what it's gonna be like, right? We have this picture of the picture-perfect relationship, the Instagram relationship, the precious selfies that we take of each other, the white dress, the perfect family, the 2 kids, the sweet puppy in the background, right? So we have this picture in our mind of what it's like to grow up in this perfect life as a woman. And so eventually we buy into this idea that our other half is responsible for our contentment and our happiness. And that is 100% not true. Okay, so like whenever, whenever I have a bad day, doesn't mean that he didn't have a bad day. And so it's not his responsibility to come home and make me happy. Okay, I have to find that resolve and that contentment within myself and within my relationship with God, instead of putting that pressure on him, and vice versa. But I think that especially as girls, we have this picture of if our life doesn't look like this Instagram story that we see, then something is wrong and it's his fault. And that's just not true. And so that's just something I've had to work through myself, is just learning that my contentment and my happiness does not weigh on his shoulders. It's something that for a person to be 100% content in their lives, it's in your relationship with God. It's not the person that you're with. And just like Ms. Monty said earlier, the closer that both of you get to that ideal relationship with God, you'll see that you get closer together. And then you don't need Instagram to tell you if your life is good or not.
perfect.
I mean, that pretty much sums up everything.
Coach A, can I join the team tomorrow?
This is good.
I think, like, just kind of building on what you said, was that I think as a teenage girl, I wish I'd found myself more. Like, I wish, I just felt, and y'all probably feel it, just this pressure to be in a relationship or in the right group of friends or in whatever. And you kind of start losing sight of, like, what you want and who you are and your relationship with God, because you're kind of worried about this outward appearance of what people think about you or what relationship you're in or whatever. And I got to a point my senior year of high school where I was like, I am sick and tired of this. And I'm not telling you to do this, but I went to a college 6.5 hours away on purpose. I said, I don't want this anymore. I can't be who I feel like I truly am inside, because I was just so caught up in everything and I was so worried. And so I got to college and I got to be me, and I really, like, this kind of sounds cliche, but I really found myself and like who I wanted to be. And it's very interesting to see how my relationships changed. And I know that's part of growing up too. But when I put myself and my relationship with God first, instead of just this outward appearance. And so something that I would say to you is, like, find who you are. and who you want to be, and don't get so caught up in just this outward appearance of what people expect from you, or maybe even what the world expects from you. So find yourself, find your relationship with God, and everything else will kind of fall into place.
That's good, real good. Anybody else want to touch on the character of young ladies?
She's got it. Do you need a microphone?
No, I can talk loud. So, as a single parent, I'm in the same boat as a lot of you guys, not dating or, being married. The biggest thing that has helped me is to know my worth. Not from the world's view, but from God. And I've been doing this Bible study, Search for Significance, and it's helping me understand who I am, who I was made to be. And I think if you guys knew that, then so much stuff would be so much easier. Because you wouldn't be worried about Instagram or any of that stuff, or who has what boyfriend or girlfriend. And I think if you guys just knew your worth through God's eyes, not the world's eyes, you guys would be much happier. You were looking at me. I just talked to you. Sorry. I'll talk to you.
Y'all had a feel moment. That was good. Feel your feelings. That's good. All right, so last question is, what is one piece of advice you would give that you wish you would have heard at your age? What's something you would have said to yourself?
Sounds good.
Coach A said it earlier, marry your best friend, okay? And so that was something that when you're young, when you're in my case, when I ended up finding my significant other, I wasn't necessarily thinking. I was that 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, and my frontal lobe wasn't fully developed, and I wasn't making adult decisions. I wasn't looking at things through a long-term view. So, the good Lord takes care of his fools. I got lucky and I picked a great one. But what I would tell you guys is that whenever you enter into that relationship and you're committing to somebody, that is not just a pretty face, that's your partner. That's who you're going to go through life. That's who you're going to raise kids with. Do they have ambition? Do they have drive? Do they want something more for themselves? Are they a believer? Do they, have some of the same beliefs and things like that? And so that's not something to, and again, it's something that as a kid you may not focus on, and this may go in one ear and out the other, but that is something, if you get serious with somebody, that's something to look at as long term. Is this the person that I can go through life with, that will be with me and commit to me? So, and can I do the same thing for them?
So something, maybe not necessarily dating related, but something I always tell new parents that I was thinking about today that really would have applied to me as a teenager and growing up and everything. I always tell new parents, don't wish away your baby's littleness. So don't wish away their littleness. Oh, I wish they were out of diapers. I wish they could walk. I wish they could just tell me what was wrong. Well, by doing that, you're wishing away their littleness, and you don't need to. Because diapers are hard and crying is hard. And I know that does not apply to you, right? But I got to thinking, and I'm like, how many times did I think, like, I wish I was 16 and could drive a car. I wish I was 18 and could make my own choices. I wish I was 21 and could drink. I wish I was 25 and could rent a car and a house. Well, all of a sudden, I'm 30 plus. But, 29 again. All of a sudden I blinked and I woke up and all my wishes came true. And I was no longer 15 wishing I was 16 and 17 wishing I was 18. So I think my advice that I wish, and I'm not sure I would have heard it at 15, 16, and 17, but I think that I wish someone had just looked me in the eye and said, like, slow down, slow down. You are going to turn 16, you are going to turn 18, you are going to turn 21, and you are going to turn 25. And then you're going to be in your 30s. And all those wishes will come true. And so I think my advice to you is just take it one day at a time, right? It's gonna happen, and it's gonna happen really fast.
She was nice.
And so that is my, don't wish away your littleness, right? And I know you're probably rolling your eyes, right? We're not little. But you know what I mean. Don't wish for that next step in your life, because it's coming, whether you wish for it or not.
Okay, my pieces of advice for marriage, even a dating relationship, guys, trust is huge. Girls, if you cannot trust your significant other, there is no relationship. Boys, same thing. If you are worried what they're doing outside of your relationship, it's not gonna work. And maybe it's something you need to work on. Maybe they're not doing anything wrong, but trust is huge. Respect. Love is easy at first, but respect, sometimes that gets hard. And I respect my husband. I love my husband. I did get to marry my best friend, so I feel very blessed. And, you know, we've been married 32 and a half years. It seems like yesterday, quite honestly, when we walked down the aisle. And I feel like a lot of that is because we've had a commitment to the Lord. And guys, marriage is not easy. I'm not going to tell you those 32 and a half years we never had an argument or never disagreed, because that would be a big fat lie. But that commitment, that commitment in front of our church and our families is huge, because, you know, sometimes you think, oh, this is just not worth it. And you think, okay, I made a commitment in front of God saying, I'm going to stick with this. And you try. And I'm not saying every marriage is going to work like that, because there's some times when it's the time to walk away. But don't go in it with, if it doesn't work out, I just go get a quickie divorce. That's not how you should walk into a relationship. But trust and respect, I think, are huge. And not to even make that the least, but that commitment to the Lord is just super important.
I can agree with these others. I did marry my best friend. Through the years, it's grown more and more. Now when something happens in my world, the person I look forward to talking to and telling about is my wife. I don't have friends that I want to rush tell them this good news. It's always my wife's who I want to talk to tell her the good news, tell her the bad news. And I can also look that since we're way beyond where y'all are at, way beyond where y'all are at. There's a lot of life outside at your age besides your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Because the truth is, most of you will not marry your high school sweetheart. You may not even marry your college sweetheart. But when you're in junior high or you're in high school, if your entire life is wrapped up in your significant other, you probably have went past the emotional part of wherever that boundary is, because you do have guy friends or girlfriends, you have activities. There's a lot more than just spending time or talking with your boyfriend or girlfriend. Because believe me, there will be plenty of time for that after all these fun years are over. It'll get better, but it'll be different. And we did date for 2.5 years before we were married, and it was great. It hasn't been as good as the 32.5 years of marriage. And it is, it's not always easy. But if you're very fortunate and blessed in your selection, it is absolutely worth it. And I won't say any more on that.
It's a different time than when we were in high school. Get off the phones. Talk
Yes.
to each other face to face, okay? My mom taught me a long time ago, you don't talk about anybody unless they're right there in front of you. You know why? Because then they can do something about it. You know, they'll talk behind their back, they can't do anything about it. You know, you go back and you look in the Bible, there's many a times Jesus stood up and he talked right in front of them. He didn't talk behind their backs. But get off the phones. Talk to each other. Look at each other in the eyes. You can tell a lot about a person by that way. I mean, when we were in high school, folding a note a certain way and trying to get it across the room was like, that's like phone talk. I mean, that's like, oh, teacher didn't catch us that time, you know. You want to go on a date? Yes or no? And send it back somehow. But nowadays, and I'm going to put all of it, and get off the phones. You're you. Quit being so-and-so in Hollywood, California that has no idea what the heck's going on with you. Get off the phone. If you really want to be in a relationship and be in a good one, talk to them. Look them in the eyes. Okay? Talk to them. Get off the, I'm going to text. I can do this 500 words a minute. Watch it. Emoji, emoji, emoji. You don't know what they're talking about, okay? So get off the phones. You know, talk to them. Have y'all ever, like, you know, if you think that's a significant other, have you ever sat down and go, you know, let's spend a night at home with no phones? What would you do? If you didn't have a phone for a day, what would you do? Would they go nutso? Would you go, you know, berserko? You know, you start, about, you know, hour 5?
I think so.
Or are you trying to go, how can I get a hold of Marianne because I miss her already? Okay? And I want to get in front of her and I want to talk to her and I want to laugh. I want to see the smile that makes me smile. Okay? So, my advice, we didn't have phones. I know. We didn't have it back in the day. It was note passing around and everybody's laughing and you don't even know they don't know what that is. Okay, but we had to talk to people, you know, we had to talk to people face to face. And, you know, I thought my mom was crazy when she said, don't ever talk about anybody behind your back unless they're right there in front of you. And y'all have heard me say that, haven't you? JJ's like, heck yeah, because I've heard you say that many a times. And, you know, these guys they're still learning me too. They know between the lines at the field, I'm one way, but in the hallways and everywhere else, I'm different, okay? And you know, get off the phones and have more fun. Relax. This is the best time of your lives. You don't think it like that because girls, boys talk about you. So what? Do they know you? Do they know you? No. Okay? You know you and what you're all about. And if you're not strong enough, go talk to him upstairs.
Yes.
Okay? And then that'll make you stronger inside and be a better person. But I'm talking to the guys and ladies, same way. You are what you are. You can't be somebody else. Don't try to be anybody else. Get off the phones, talk to each other. Face to face. Okay? That's my biggest advice.
That was pretty great.
Cool. Anybody else? I was trying to make eye contact with everybody at once. I just didn't have enough personalities to handle it.
I know it's time to go, so I'm gonna make this real quick. Like, I think y'all didn't date in high school.
She knew who I was because
Okay.
I'm the stud. No, we didn't think that.
So we may be the only couple up here that has been through, like y'all, right? We've been in your shoes as high school kids, right? And so, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, I'm just saying, like, we have walked that path. And one thing, like, Scott went to college and I was back at home, still in high school. And so, like, the one piece of advice I think I would give you, and it's not anything super profound, but, you know, you still have friends and you still have a mom and dad at home and you still have maybe siblings and a family, and like wrapping yourself up 100% in this person isn't healthy for anybody. And it's a struggle on your family. And so, like, that's something that I had to work through. You know, he was gone at college. Did we have a cell phone? You had a cell phone. I didn't have a cell phone. He had a flip phone. It's pretty fancy.
3 strokes in her letter.
Yeah, you have to go like A, B, C. It was pretty tough. But anyways, I couldn't just sit at home every Friday night waiting for him to call and wondering what he was doing. I had friends that wanted to be with me and I needed to be with them. And so it's important to maintain other relationships, right? It's not just healthy to wrap yourself up in one person. And so, again, like Ms. Monica said, you don't want to wish this time away because these are years that you don't get back with your family or with your siblings at home or with your friends that you are not going to see after high school. So maintain other relationships at the same time.
Good balance. Man, I've been blessed. Y'all have shared a lot of cool things tonight. You are the sum of the average of the 5 people around you that you spend the most time with. That's awesome. But a lot of good things. I love seeing your heart as well, your dedication, and the fact that y'all look more in love today than when you started. I think that's huge. I think I can see that in the way that you look at each other. So I want to encourage you guys. Thank you for being after it for the long haul, because a lot of my family background is not what you guys have done. My family background was like 4 or 5, and so to see this is really cool because you don't want to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. You want to do it for a lifetime. You want to be together and celebrate each other, and so you start that by your practices now. The lifestyle that you live will be what you practice. And so when you put good dating practices in play, you end up having a good relationship down the road. And so this is a part of that. And so next week we'll talk how Scripture looks at the whole concept of relationships and some other tips and things like that. So as they leave tonight, be sure you let them know how you felt about them being here. But if you would, just tell them thank you by applause tonight for them being here. Thank you all very much.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. There's no grand gift cards except for my undying love and affection for what you do. But
the best gift ever,
I feel your feels. That's good. Dwayne, would you pray for these 4 couples as they continue to live out their faith, and then for us that we follow that example as well?
Dear Lord, thank you for this evening. Thank you for these wonderful couples who are grounded in your love, and that's the foundation for their relationship. Thank you for giving us their wisdom of the highs and the lows and everything in between of the journey of dating and marriage. Lord, we know it's a difficult topic to talk about sometimes, and I think sometimes there's a lot of giggling, but it's also one of the most important commitments that we can make outside of our commitment to you. So Lord, please help us to learn from what we've heard tonight, and help all of us, including the couples who spoke, continue forward on a journey with our spouses, with our significant others, and with you. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Outstanding. All right, you're dismissed.